Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of the Players NIL Influencer Podcast. Today, my special guest is an old friend, and we're proud to have him back to tell us the updates in his life and in his story. Gib Versfeld, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Mark. Great to be here and great to meet you all.
Well, Gib, we first met almost 2 years ago now when you were a grad student at Johns Hopkins, and we were beginning this journey of the Players NIL mentorship and leadership program around using your celebrity as an athlete to create lifelong opportunities. And I don't know if I know of someone in the last year and a half, 2 years, that's done a better job than you. But I do want to go back a little bit because we're recording this to create a mentorship and leadership program that other athletes can listen to and hopefully gain some insights and learn from your experience and your wisdom. The first thing I want to talk about is you are one of the early transfer portal athletes, and having graduated and completed your undergraduate degree at Amherst College and playing lacrosse at a very high level there, you transferred to Johns Hopkins. What went into the decision to, number one, continue your athletic career and your academic career? And what were some of the thoughts and decisions that went into that process?
Definitely. I think any competitive athlete, this will ring a bell for. And for me, right, undergrad years, we really only had 2.5 years of competition because of COVID. And I saw that as an opportunity to continue playing. And with these extra years that were provided, as any athlete wants to do, they want to continue in their sport and they want to compete at the highest level. So for me, everything that I was doing during that time period, away from my team at Amherst when we weren't able to compete with COVID, was focusing on how I could, hit that next level as an athlete, as a competitor. And there's one institution that came to mind, right? And that was Johns Hopkins, who's the pinnacle in the sport for success in lacrosse and men's lacrosse. And, whether it was Johns Hopkins or any other institution, my goal was on myself in a continuous process of improvement. And it worked out pretty well, but it took planning and it took, a lot of hard work.
What was the planning and the hard work? Tell me about it. How did you start the process? You must have made a phone call or sent an email. How did that work? What were the mechanics?
So I think anytime you're looking to play or transfer to another institution, the first thing I did was map out like what I thought my strengths were and also what I thought I needed to improve, right? There was a jump across divisions, Division 3 to Division 1. So I sat down and created a little matrix of, my footwork, my hand-eye work, etc., and seeing where I needed to get better. And then also how I can share my story of what I think I already did pretty great, right? Compete at a high level, NCAA tournament experience as a starter, leading a team as a captain, and really creating that narrative about who I am and what I can provide as a teammate, as a leader, and someone who can also, be a great friend. So with that perspective, that's what I brought as my pitch to schools. They weren't just getting a goaltender, right? They were getting a valued member of their team, of their community, of someone who can help uplift all 48 players on the roster. And that's something I took a lot of pride in because I knew that we'd probably have this joint vision of success at the highest level. And that's what drove everything. How can I succeed as an athlete? How can I succeed as a teammate and as a competitor?
When you made the decision to go to Johns Hopkins, obviously lots of those factors. Did you know anyone on the team or did you go in totally blind?
So I knew a couple guys on the team, just lacrosse being a smaller community. One of my good friends from high school, Jack Ruddy, was on the team and we'd work out and train together. And I saw what it looked like from his perspective to train at an elite level, at a top level. And I knew that's what I wanted for myself too. So we had obviously talked, and there were other guys on the team as well that I was familiar with and, really admired growing up because of how they performed as elite athletes. And that's what I wanted for myself.
I'm imagining the drive from Philadelphia to Baltimore. You're getting ready to start this new adventure. Were you nervous?
I think I was nervous, but I was excited, right? I think you walk into a new environment and there's a sense of, you feel like you have to prove yourself. and that you have to be different. The reality is you just have to be yourself. And I remember walking in there, one of my teammates, Connor DeSimone, pulled me aside. He's like, "Hey, Gib, look, you're here. You're one of us." And for any athletes out there who have new transfers that are coming into their programs, I think my advice for you would be, be that friend, be that big brother or big sister who just accepts someone new for who they are and let them feel comfortable joining the program right away. And that really ease the tensions and nerves, and also, let me focus on just enjoying the process.
So you arrive on campus, you know a few people, you know the sport, you know how to play. You go into fall ball. It's a different level than D3, I'm guessing. What were some of the surprises, or what surprised you most about your first fall in Baltimore?
I mean, from a lacrosse perspective, right? The amount of time that we put in as a team was significantly higher between film, strength conditioning, practices with coaches. It was just more than I had done before at the Division III level, but I think was similar to the work that I and my peers previously had put in individually. But to now have that in a team environment, I could see it was intoxicating. It was, you're putting these competitive spirits together, and it's something I loved.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. So
And
because you didn't have enough on your plate, you're a graduate student at one of the finest institutions in the world. You're playing lacrosse at one of the most historic programs in the nation. Decide to create a company and become a mentor. You use the platform, which we now refer to as name, image, and likeness, NIL, to your advantage. And as we talked in our warm up here before we pushed record, you weren't the quarterback at Ohio State. You weren't the running back at Alabama. You weren't the basketball player at Kentucky. And so NIL looked different to you. But your relationship with the sport, your relationship with your community, your relationship with the young athletes in the community was still strong. Tell us about what went into creating Crease Crew, what it is, and how the athletic world and the lacrosse world has received you.
definitely. So funny story. The day that I heard from Coach Milliman at Johns Hopkins, men's lacrosse coach, that, this was formal, I could be part of the team. It was about 10 minutes before I was about to drive up to a showcase in New York State to coach goalies, right? So you can just picture me driving from Pennsylvania up to New York with a big smile on my face, knowing I'm about to join a new team, but also knowing that I'm on the pursuit of an activity that I love doing, which is coaching and growing the game, and something that's authentic to myself. I think that's most important, that authenticity piece, right? I love, playing at a high level, but I also love seeing that satisfaction with other people and being a coach and mentor to provide that. With Hopkins, obviously there's lacrosse is the brand of the institution. And to be associated with that, I think has only helped Crease Crew and have people know who I am and want to train with me. But at the end of the day, that same love I have to compete is the same love that I have, that I want to share with others on the field as a mentor, with Crease Crew as a coach. And I think that was the driving factor for the success that we've had since then, as a company, because, if you love what you do, it's not really a job. And for me, when I wasn't playing, when I wasn't with the team, in those summer months or in the off season, what I wanted to do was coach and continue to grow. And that's what I was and am able to do.
How did you manage the marketing of it? What did you do to get your brand out there, to connect with people? Obviously, you knew people, so I'm guessing you went for the low-hanging fruit, as they say, and you reached back to your high school coach or whatever. But how did you begin? What were those first early steps of building your brand as a goalie coach?
Yeah, it starts at a local level, right? I started with my knowns, and by knowns, I define that as people who I knew, who were familiar with me, and I was familiar with them, who I could come in from day one and say, "Hey, look, my name is Gib. I provide lacrosse goalie services," right? I knew my um what my service was, and said, "Hey, do you have any opportunities for a goalie coach to come in for one practice and, share my knowledge?" And I got a resounding yes. So I started with that inner circle, my old club lacrosse program, my town program, people that were familiar. From there, I kind of had that proven model of success. And then I said, hey, do you know this recruiting director? Or do you know this club program? Can you make an introduction for me? Because by then I had a proven model of what I can provide, and I knew my coaching and principles that I would bring to the table. And it just grew and grew and grew. But you first have to be willing to ask and open that door and say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I can provide. How can I help you? And also, what do you need? That's an important question. What do they need? And we can dive more into that in a little bit.
Yeah. How did social media play into this?
Social media is instrumental, right? The youths these days, whether it's middle school, high school, they socialize in Instagram and TikTok. And for me, right away, I knew that I could quickly find people in my area to train with, to coach, showcases to work with, simply by like an Instagram DM. Said, hey, I'm Gib Versfeld. I was a goalie at Johns Hopkins, and I have this company called Crease Crew. I'd love to train with you. Um, do you have an hour and a half that we could work together? Simple like that. People say no, people say yes. But then the day, people also are trying to, like, athletes want to get better. They want to improve. And if they hear from someone they idolize in their community or hear from someone who's doing it at the highest level, that means something. And more often than not, people were all aboard. And sometimes I had to say no because there were so many people who are interested and my time was limited. But it all comes to using social media as a platform to connect and also share, right? What is your message? I post videos on my old account that I had first, like Goalie by Gib, which is how I started, of some of my favorite drills, right? Behind the scenes of how I operate. And then I felt like people got to know me more before I actually showed up on a field and said, hey, you should try this technique or this process. There's a trust factor that social
Yeah,
media opens the door with.
yeah, that's a great answer. Um, what does Crease Crew offer? What are the services that you offer, and what do kids get out of the relationship with your brand?
It's simple. We offer elite training, right? But it's not just for high school or middle school students. It's for kids who want to get better. You don't have to be at the very top right now. But one thing that's a non-negotiable for me and Crease Crew as a whole is a desire for this process of being great. If I work with a kid and their goal is just, I want to play in college, that's not enough, right? Do they want to be the best at, challenging in tight shots, or do they want to have the best process-oriented mindset? And what I mean by that is, think of your top professional athletes, right? LeBron James, whoever it may be, they're working every single day to get better. For students that I'm working with, student athletes I'm working with at the middle school, high school levels, it has to be the same. So that mindset's a big component of it. The services that we offer, we do group training based in the DC region. Occasionally we do individual as well, but like to do group training because it breeds that competitive environment. Virtual training as well. This is a big opportunity. If you have film doesn't lie. You know, Mark, we could look back in this podcast and you could probably point out one or two areas where you're like, Gib, you probably could have done better here. Film's no different. So I'd encourage anyone who's reviewing your game, like, share that with a mentor, share that with your local college athlete. They can offer great feedback because they see what it looks like at that collegiate, at that highest level. And lastly, we work with showcases and collegiate institutions. So we'll run goalie training for local showcases across the East Coast, and also partner with collegiate institutions, lacrosse programs to provide some virtual training as well. And we've had a couple partners last year, and it's pretty terrific that we're going to continue to grow.
It's great, and I know that the quality of work that you do is outstanding. So that's amazing. You graduated in 23 with a master's degree from Johns Hopkins. You're running a business. Think about all the life skills you've learned in putting all that together. That's what real NIL is. But you took a real professional job with Deloitte. Tell us what you've been up to for the last 12 months or so.
Yeah, so I'm based down in DC and working with Deloitte Consulting. Essentially, my role jumping in is a lot of time on PowerPoint, taking notes, but also thinking strategically, like big picture on goals. One of the main focuses right now is building our college athletics practice and thinking about how athletic departments, how conferences can navigate NIL and these, student athlete employment, shifting conferences and media rights and all these big questions. So it's really interesting to see the dynamic environment that we know is college athletics. But it's something that really excites me and I'm sure is interesting for a lot of people as well.
Yeah. Well, one of the founding principles of our business is how do you use athletics to better your life? And I can't think of a better example than Gib Versfeld. And the second principle is how to use athletics to give back and make the lives of the people around you better. And you're doing that through your Crease crew, and you'll do that through your professional career. In the last 12 months, you haven't suited up in a formal game. I don't know if you still catch any rubber on weekends once in a while, but what do you miss most about college?
I mean, it's the time with the guys, right? And the team. We used to have the pregame dinners down in Baltimore at Sammy's, the bus rides to and from games. It's that atmosphere, just that collection of competitors, of just guys who, would die for you. And you really can't replace that. But luckily coaching gives a little bit of that exposure where you can kind of create that mindset. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's definitely the team.
cool. People want to get in touch with you, learn more about your work at Crease Crew. How do they find you? What are the websites? What are the social handles?
Boom. Instagram at crease_crew. And website is thecreasecrew.com. Feel free to email as well, gib@thecreasecrew.com. But this is a great opportunity for anyone, student athletes, college, high school, middle school. Start thinking about what you love, what you can provide, what you can share. Because really, we all have an opportunity to educate and help grow this next generation of student athletes. NIL gives you a chance to also make money off of it. And, it's a great tandem. So definitely go all in.
Great. Well, we've enjoyed working with you. You'll always be part of the Players NIL family. From a distance now, we watch and admire your work, and we hope to stay in touch and follow your journey and report back to our audience what year two looks like at some point.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for sharing what NIL can mean for me and for the audience here. Very grateful. So thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Great. Have a great day, Gib. Thank you.
You too. Take care.